If you are a DC Comics fan, then most likely Oliver Queen is your favorite superhero, which means you're going to love what we have to say. The TV show is coming back for yet another season. The tale of the spoiled billionaire playboy met its conclusion in the last episode of Season 8. However, it seems like Stephen Amell is open to return and play the character in Arrow Season 9. Arrow Season 8 Recap. Before we dive in and start talking about the 9th season, let's make a short recap on what happened in the previous season. After 2 deaths and a few memorials during Crisis on Infinite Earths, Arrow itself struggled to come up with much new to say about Oliver Queen's legacy and the end of the season that started it all. While there are fans who had a good solid cry over it, that feels woefully inadequate compared to the high standard Season 8 has set. Many of us probably wondered how Arrow would handle its season finale, given that its leading man didn't have the best luck in the recent Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. We were hoping that Oliver Queen would be saved and left to exist as the DC TV universe's figurehead, but that's not what happens at all. Final episode of Arrow focused around Oliver Queen's funeral, the hero having died 2 episodes earlier, and summoned characters from past, present, and future. Indeed, Oliver himself, although having departed life as the Green Arrow, returned in a flashback to the events of the show's first season. It is explained that Oliver sacrificed his life in the latest crossover to not only restart the universe, but also resurrect many of the people he had lost in the past 8 years. At least, the complicated romance of Oliver's sister Thea and boyfriend Roy had a happy ending. For fans, the very last scene was the most important, and it appears to have been everything they could have hoped for. The much-loved romance between Oliver and Felicity was left on an unexpected happy note after they reunited forever in the afterlife. Release date. Arrow uses its final hour to explore something most superhero stories never bother with, telling the part that comes afterward. So while Arrow's ending is perhaps much darker than many of us expected, it is also cathartic, emotional, and perfect for the show like this, reminding us why Oliver Queen's story mattered before finally showing us his much-deserved, if slightly bittersweet, happy ending. Season 9 release date is something that many fans are looking forward to learning. Following the viewing of the last season, many viewers are even more interested to find out what happens in the next season of this series. Lately, Stephen Amell stated that he is still up to portray the character of Oliver Queen. Right after that, the fans began to speculate that he will be coming back for Arrow Season 9. He was under contract for 7 seasons, and it was agreed that he would return for only 1 more season as the Emerald Archer. But there's a possibility that we're going to see him show up in some future Arrowverse projects. Anyway, the main question here is, when will we get to know this Season 9 release date? Well, no official word has been made regarding the release date as of yet, but if the creators follow their dreams, we may anticipate the final season to be announced towards the end of 2022. Cast. Despite the fact that there is no official announcement about the forthcoming season, we expect every character to return if the Season 9 date is set to take place as planned. In addition to our heroes from the previous seasons, there are several new side characters that we might see in the upcoming season as well. The Arrow Season 9 won't be the same without Stephen Amell, whether as a flashback from the past or maybe another miracle could happen. There is also Cassidy in the role of Laurel Lance. David Ramsey features John Diggle, Willa Holland as Thea Queen, Colton Haynes as Roy Harper, and finally Echo Cullum performs Curtis Holt. According to some reports, the CW is also smashing that like button and subscribe button, just like you should if you haven't done so already. But no, in all seriousness, it is said that they are developing a new spin-off series titled Green Arrow and the Canaries. So Mia, Black Siren, and Black Canary will appear as the leading characters in this upcoming series. Season 9 First Look, as we know, are wrapped up in its 8th season, which coincided with the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event, which is where we saw Oliver Queen die after sacrificing himself in order to hold back those shadow demons and hopefully protect some of Earth's 38 citizens for long enough so they could get to safety. But of course, he is reborn as the Spectra later on and assisted in not only the first off takedown of the Anti-Monitor, but also rebuilding the multiverse to what we know it as now in the whole of DC. Ever since this moment and the last couple of episodes of Arrow to wrap up the series, there has been talk, is that all of Oliver Queen? Or specifically, Stephen Amell? whether that be as Oliver Queen or someone else. While talking on the Inside of the Podcast, hosted by Smallville's Michael Rosenbaum, this was brought up and discussed. Most of us that watched and enjoyed Arrow have probably thought what could have happened if Arrow did another season, even if the same events took place that we saw happen in Season 8 and Crisis, or even what could happen if a scenario like this played out with another story year after the show originally ended. Now Stephen Amell does say Netflix, HBO Max, or the CW as places where it could happen, but what could that storyline be? Plot details. There are many theories on what could happen in the 9th season, but before that, let's make a short recap on what happened in the previous couple of seasons. The last few seasons of Arrow suffered from complex plot lines, but there were still many positive sides. Arrow held so much potential at the start, perfectly balancing the action-oriented source material with some sort of soap opera storytelling. But halfway through it started stealing from Batman comics and focusing on the central love story between Oliver and Felicity. We are not really sure how the fans accepted this. Anyway, it definitely brought some bright sparks in the latter seasons and a fitting finale. In what is perhaps the most surprising turn of events, Arrow makes no efforts to undo what has come before in this finale. Oliver Queen is really most sincerely dead. No takebacks. The story of Arrow may have begun with one man, but it ends with a squad of dedicated heroes, all ready to pick up Oliver's bow and fight for the world he wanted. When Arrow premiered, pretty much nobody could have ever imagined that we'll have an end like this. It started as the tale of a selfish playboy with fancy technology, a mask, and a hunger for revenge. It ends as a tale of self-sacrifice and redemption, and serves as an object lesson in what superhero television can both do and be. There are few theories on how Oliver Queen could return back in Season 9. The first one would be returning back as Spectra. It was quite interesting to see Oliver Queen take on this mantle of another DC superhero for a change. Amell portrayed the role of the Spectra in the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. He then used his newfound powers and abilities to fight the Anti-Monitor. This option makes the most sense. Rather than making the actor return as the same character, they give him a new angle to explore. Oliver Queen as the Spectra would be a good change of pace for the show. The story could revolve around the reason behind Oliver Queen's return. Arrow Season 9 would show Oliver Queen with an air of mystery around him. Arrow Season 9 could also merge with Green Arrow and the Canaries. Oliver Queen would travel to the future to team up with his daughter, Mia Smoak. This would also be an interesting plot direction, since this would mean an entirely new set of supporting characters and new supervillains to terrorize Star City. On a related note, what do you think of Arrow? Are you wishful that there's another season? Let us know in the comment section down below. If you liked the video, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss our next videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.